those relationships, though the church makes them transactional, that I'm only your friend, I only love you because you're in the church, it's not actually that way. Once you leave, you'll realize that these are real relationships, that we really do love each other, that we really do want what's best for the other people. And that's the same place we're still in. We wanted what was best for them while we were in the church, and we still want what's best for them. And now that we're on the outside, we know it's so much better once you can separate and once you can live your own life, experience what real life is.
Welcome back, everybody, to Finding the Alternative. My name is Eric. I'm filling in for Adam today. I am a former member of the Omission Church of God. I was baptized in 2012, and I was a member until 2025. I'm a former group leader, and I'm a former deacon that served in Salt Lake City. Today, I'm joined with two familiar faces. We have Brennan and Veronica that also served in the church. I'm going to give them the floor at this time and let them explain about themselves, a little bit of their story, and we're going to see their point of view and their story when it comes of leading out of the church.
Hi, I'm Veronica. This is my husband, Brennan. We actually came into the church together in 2014, and we kept our last Passover in 2021, though we stopped going to church in 2020.
We were house church leaders in St. George, Utah, as well as office church leaders in Idaho Falls. While we were in Salt Lake, we were unit leaders. So we did have various roles within the church, and this is our story.
So one thing I want to start off with, which I think we're doing it now to get the heat off of us. Most people think that when people speak up or people want to bring their case to the forefront, is because we have a personal vendetta or we want to get back at somebody. But I've said this before, and I'll say it every day, that I don't have any personal problems with anybody that's still in the church, whether it was the former leader or any kind of member. This is simply putting a lens on the fact that this particular cult just has people acting in particular ways that they wouldn't normally act. And I think it's safe to say that what you guys will bring up, it's not a personal thing, but it's just your personal experiences that you endured in the church. Specifically, you guys will see, we'll reveal a couple things about myself in this interview, which I'm totally happy to, because again, I wouldn't have done these things if it wasn't for this particular place. But yes, just wanted to mention that really quick. Quick question, just so we can know more about you guys. What's your guys' religious background? Maybe we can start with Brennan.
Yeah, so I was born in Utah, so like most people born and raised in Utah, I was raised in the LDS church, or most people know them as the Mormons. I was pretty active until my teenage years. I had some roles within that church as well. Like a lot of teenagers do, I stopped going to that church after a while, after I could make my own decisions. But I always believed in God. I believed in the Bible, believed in Christianity and Christ. So that was my religious upbringing and background, was fully based on Mormon teachings. Of course, there were things that I disagreed with that eventually led to me leaving. So I kind of just would have considered myself Christian before coming to the Church of God.
Yeah, and I grew up not super religious. I mean, I was baptized Catholic as a small child, but other than that, I would go to random churches every once in a while with my grandma on the weekends. But other than that, I was never really religious. I believed in God, I prayed, but that was about it.
So I guess it's safe to say that, Brennan, you had your particular upbringing in the LDS Church. You still believe in God, so I guess we could say you were open.
Yeah.
Veronica, you had no particular reason to not trust in any organized religion. You were simply fine going and seeing what any church, what their message would have been, right?
Right.
That's good. So my next question for you guys, which is going to be a little interesting, especially for myself. How are you guys preached to? Or what was your first encounter with the church?
So we'll just get the spoiler out of the way. It was actually Erick who preached to us. It was a Saturday afternoon, and we were at home. And one of the funny things about us is we generally don't answer the door unless we know somebody's coming over. Of course, now everybody has the Ring doorbell so they can just see who's coming, but we didn't have one. So somebody knocked on our door that Saturday afternoon, and randomly Veronica said, "Just answer it. It's probably my sister."
And she had never come over to our house.
Right. So
She's got to be here this time.
I'm sure I mumbled, "Why would it be your sister?" as I went to the door. But I opened the door and Erick was standing there. So he shared with us quickly the general spiel. We're a Christian church. We believe in the Bible. And that kind of piqued my interest because one of the qualms I had with the LDS church is it felt like a lot of the things were made up on the spot, right? The rules were always changing depending on what this leader thought at this time. Now it's not correct anymore. Now it's something else. And that always kind of bothered me. So hearing that there was a church that was based solely on the Bible really piqued my interest. So Erick came in, shared with us the study of the weeds and wheat. I thought that was really interesting. I'd never seen somebody flip through the Bible like that. So we set up a study for later. And that's how we were preached to.
Yeah. So to be clear, I wasn't by myself. So it wasn't just me going around. I had a partner at the time. I think she was newer actually. And it's funny because whenever I preached with somebody who was newer, I would always tell them, "Hey, a lot of people are going to deny us. A lot of people are not going to listen, but it's okay. We're doing it for the one that will," or something like that. So it was interesting to be giving somebody encouragement and then, luckily have somebody finally answer the door and give us a moment of their time. Interesting. If I could comment really quick, the weeds and the wheat. So it's not that I was moved to particularly give them that particular message. The weeds and the wheat, you kind of inject this idea into their head that all of Christendom, all of Christianity is essentially an apostasy. That there can be no truth in the world except the truth that would be given by a second coming. So, seemingly from the beginning, it seems like, oh wow, thank you for sharing that with me, but it's particularly used so that we can at least make this question in people's minds so that they can only find one answer, and it would be through us. So I just wanted to mention that really quick. What were your guys' thought after I left? What was your guys' thoughts about that encounter? Was something come up or something pique your interest?
I was really interested just in learning more about a church that believed in the Bible. Mainly, and I think the reason, usually during our preaching times, we wouldn't go to weeds and wheat at the door, right? It's like a full-blown study. Yeah. So I think you picked up on my looking for something that isn't just, this is what our leader thinks, this is what our teacher is teaching today, that I really wanted something that was from the Bible. So I think you picked up on that, and that really piqued my interest. So I was just, we were going to study sometime later in the next week. I was just excited for our next study.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, if anybody remembers being in a church, having somebody, give you some time and want to follow up, it's always really exciting. So you can't help but share your excitement with that person as well. So yeah, I can definitely see how that was feeling you guys had.
I think prior to that too, we had been kind of like going to some other churches just to kind of check them out and just kind of see. Like we had been wanting to go somewhere, but we didn't really know where to go, you know. So when you came, it just felt like, oh, this seems perfect.
It seems natural. Like if you really believe in your church, then you should go out and bring people. But you know, as we've come to find out, we were kind of working for the church to bring people in. But yeah, of course we defended that point. I defended it for a long time. Like everybody should be preaching. People shouldn't. Their faith shouldn't be it shouldn't be inside. They should be letting people know about it. Obviously, it was for a wrong purpose. But yeah. How long after we met did you? For me, it's hard to remember. But do you guys remember how long it was before you guys actually came to the church and met up with us?
It was. I actually do remember. It was 1 week later. So we had plans to study earlier. For some reason, I canceled. I can't remember why. But we came the next Saturday to study more. That was our first study at the office church. I don't entirely remember what we covered. I think we actually did weeds and wheat again, but in detail instead of just the quick version at the door. And then we studied a few more times that week until the next Saturday. So it was about a week, 2 weeks of studying before things turned a little bit.
Got a little bit more serious. What was do you guys remember what the environment was like in the office church? Was it a little shocking to be in a plaza and just going into a church?
Yeah, I think it was a little interesting. I had never really experienced a smaller church like that, kind of in the office setting, not its own building. But also, I think when we went, it was like during service time. I remember like seeing the women with the veils, and I just thought that was interesting because I had never had any experience with that. So that kind of like threw me off. So yeah.
For me, I don't think I minded it too much. I think I just kind of assumed since it's not the LDS church and it's in Utah, it's probably not going to be very big. And it just made sense to me that it was in an office. So there weren't very many people there. That was a little more surprising to me. There were only a few of us, but the office church itself, it didn't strike me as out of the ordinary.
Yeah, it was. Those were the nice, cozy days when we were all very personal with one another and felt like a very small family. And yeah, I just remember when I first came, it was on a Monday, so there was no one there, and I was starting to think like, okay, this is kind of strange. And at some point, maybe it wasn't that first time, but sometime after, I was shown the Church of God around the world. And I just got to see, oh, okay, so we're small here, but it's big all over the world.
Yeah.
So let me just put my worries behind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I looked at it as normal.
Right.
Yeah, okay. This is the biggest church in Utah is the LDS church. So it makes sense that everybody else would have to kind of find some other way to establish their church.
Right.
And I think we both had seen like office churches, or you're going to the grocery store and right next to it there's like either a Spanish church or some kind of church.
Right.
Okay, very nice. What about the people? What did you think about the people that you met, other than myself, when you guys first came?
I think everybody seemed really nice. They, very smiley, very happy looking, like, oh, hi, very excited to see you, which I think in a normal world setting doesn't happen very often. Like, people aren't usually that happy or excited to, meet someone new. So that was It was refreshing, but also kind of like, whoa, a
Red
little bit
flag
much.
number one. Red flag number one.
So that's how it felt for me.
Yeah, I don't know that either of us recognized it as a red flag at the time.
Sure.
I mean, the leader and his wife were the nicest people I'd ever met in my entire life when we showed up for the first few times. And they were still nice throughout.
Yeah.
But when you're brand new, it's a different kind of nice for sure. There's another level to it. So yeah, it was a good time in the office church when, nice and cozy, and really was, like you said, like a little family, especially with, how much time we spent there. It was just, like you said, little family.
Yeah.
Lots of fond memories for sure.
Yeah. No, I think that's, so maybe we can confirm one thing or clarify one thing. Friendly people at a church is not a immediate like red flag, but maybe we can say typically in what we ultimately come to find out, a cult, nice people usually indicates a manner of really involving that particular new convert or new person into the group itself. So let's hang out. I want to find out who you are. I want to know everything about you. It's out of, I think for most people, it's out of their goodness. But, there are definitely times when, hey, that guy's new. Go, hey, go say hi to him or go welcome him. And after a while, it becomes kind of unnatural because, they can see you coming and, oh, what's up, man? Kind of just bump into them. But yeah, in the beginning, it's definitely seamless. Like you don't see it happening. But after a while, it definitely kind of wears off a little bit.
Right.
Okay. So obviously, you guys came. We met at the door. You guys came. You guys had various studies. Then ultimately, maybe not much longer after, would you remember how long it took before you got baptized?
Yeah, so we had that first study the Saturday after we got preached to. It was actually the Saturday after that we were baptized. And we were studying a lot that morning. And we had gone home because you guys were keeping service. So we went home while service was happening, with plans to study again in the coming week.
Yeah.
However, when I got home, I started to look online and saw not a lot of things about the church. This was in 2014, so there wasn't nearly as much available in English as there is now. But what we could find was really shocking to me. I saw something about this Ansang Hong guy, a belief in God the Mother. I don't remember whether or not I had found that the church believed that God the Mother had come to the earth, but that there was a belief is what I can for sure say that I saw. Yes.
Okay.
And these things were pretty concerning to me. I was really upset, actually. I felt like I had been lied to because I hadn't seen anything yet about any of these teachings. All I had seen was weeds and wheat, Sabbath day, Passover, probably seal of God, something like this. So when I saw these things, I was really upset. And I shared with her how upset I was, and I don't entirely remember what she said to me.
Yeah, I think it was just something along the lines of they've shown us everything, through the Bible since we've been studying, so we just should at least hear them out and see what they say before we just write it off. So
very charitable.
Yeah,
very charitable.
If I could go back,
you gave them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
So she convinced me, and then at that time I texted you.
Yeah.
And I just said, Eric, is this really what you guys believe? Your response to me was, yes, but let me show you through the Bible.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. And then we went back that night, and studied after the evening service. think at that time, Eddie started to study with us.
Yeah, I think I shared with him, hey, Eddie, they, right after they, like, sometime after they left, they went on the internet, which I know we're not supposed to do, but they did it. And, I'm talking to him now. I'm asking him to, like, come back, and, he says yes, so he'll be here after service. I think I welcomed you guys, but I think Eddie did the majority of the Bible study.
Okay.
So, he was, oh man, I feel like it was a few hours.
It was almost midnight when we got baptized, and at that time, it was only him and his wife that were there and us.
Yeah, I remember that now.
I will say, I do remember that I hung out. I think I was in the room, but I think I stepped out as well to just, maybe talk to some people that were still in the church. But I told myself, he's got this. He's going to take care of this. Let's see what happens. And I remember you guys getting baptized and leaving, and I hung out with him a little bit after that.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so he studied with us King David, showed us some verses about mother. I don't think we fully studied, but enough to be like, hey, this isn't a crazy belief, to believe that a mother exists. I don't believe, in fact, now that I think about it more, I know for sure we were not taught prior to being baptized that there was a belief that God the Mother had come to the earth. So we studied King David, we studied some verses about a mother, and then he asked if we wanted to be baptized. I think we were a little hesitant, so we studied be baptized immediately.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, we're 11:30, almost midnight, and yeah, we went ahead with it and got baptized in the office church. Yes,
that was, at that time, we don't know even a percentage of the things that we knew now. So I was really happy. I was really excited for you guys because up until that point, everything made sense. Everything was wonderful. It was the only truth that anybody needed. I believed all their truth claims about Anton Hong, God the Mother, the Seal of God, the feast. So it just seemed, it was black and white. So I was overcome with joy. I was really, really happy. I think, this was a couple of years after I was baptized. So I was seeing the fruit of our labor, of the supposed labor that the church tells us that we're going to have. So once you believe in the true Christ, then you go out and you start to talk to people about the same message, and you'll be rejected, but after a certain amount of time, you'll bear fruit, as long as you don't give up. So really happy after you guys were baptized and started coming, and I think everybody else was as well. You guys were the new toys, so there's a lot of attention on you. What do you do? What are you guys into? So that was a good time. Explain to me, or maybe speak a little bit about what you remember from then on. Like, was it? I'm assuming it may have, of course, probably some Bible studies for a few weeks, and you guys got right into it, right? Or how did it go for you guys?
Oh, we dove head first into it. I mean, even that first Saturday, and you were studying with me about services, and I asked you, are there 1 or 3? And of course, he said 3.
Yeah, Brennan, he did it really like, oh my gosh, it was so funny. Because he held his hands right in front of his face. I was like, this guy's Wolverine over here. And I remember looking at Veronica, and she just had like, I don't know if it was worried, but it was like, please say 1. That's what I was thinking to myself, and I was like, it's 3. It's 3.
Yeah, so we dove right in. From then on, we were keeping the 3 services on Saturday. We were keeping the third day services. And yeah, shortly after that, a short term came from San Diego. And we dove into preaching at that time. So yeah, we were just head first, all in from the first drop of water.
You know, Veronica, in the beginning, if a couple comes in the beginning, it's about the two of them, right? Usually, I think there's been many cases where there's one teacher and both of them, if it's a couple, they both look to this person as like their teacher. Well, obviously, once the couple's baptized, you see how we really operate, right? We kind of separate. So I remember a lot of things from when Brennan got baptized, but I actually don't know a lot of things from when you were baptized. How would you describe, like, maybe when you first came in?
Yeah, I think, like Brennan said, we definitely, jumped right in. I think there was one Sabbath early on where I was just like, I don't want to go. So I did miss one service myself. He still went. But I remember shortly after they wanted him to start studying with one of the newer members. And I remember him saying, oh, well, the overseer told me, we need to be there all the time because if these newer members see us not there, then, they're going to think that they shouldn't come either. Yeah. So I remember that was just something that always, like, stuck in my head, like, okay, I really got to be here. I got to show up for these newer members, even though I'm still new myself. But I think definitely Brennan, he's really smart, and yes. He's able to, just catch on so quickly to the studies and stuff. So he was studying, with people a lot faster than I was. I always struggled a little bit. That's not really my wheelhouse or my strong suit. So I just kind of laid low a little bit more than him. But as far as services and stuff, yeah, we just pretty much jumped right in and we were just all in.
Yeah. And I remember that short term. I think you asked me, hey, so what's the short term schedule? Because I want to either get time off work or be available and join. And when your fruit is asking you when they can start preaching, it's really awesome. So you're kind of wrapped up in it. And yeah, I just remember that particular short term is when you started to preach, and I think you bore 2 fruit. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Right off the bat.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, wow, and when you see all these things happening, you're just like, this is meant to be. Right. Or this is destiny or something like that. Right. Not to be, too forthcoming with that, but you feel like this is what you're supposed to be doing. So you guys get baptized, you guys still studying the necessary studies, and then obviously you start preaching, and then the time comes when, okay, maybe it's time for you guys to start learning subjects. When, of course, that goes for maybe a few months. When do you feel like you guys shifted gears? When did it feel like, okay, now it's time to really step up?
That's a good question, because it was so all gas, no brakes from the start. I don't really feel like there was any point in time where I was just all right, time to level up. It was always
just hit the ground running.
Full effort from the start. Of course, our roles and responsibilities began to change in the church, and now looking back, I can see where some things may have went wrong. But it was really just, we just accumulated more and more responsibility and more roles within the church. Pretty much from the start, we were preaching a lot. We weren't missing preaching meetings. We weren't missing Bible study. We weren't never missing service. Missing service is just, you cannot ever miss service. So we were just doing everything we could. Eventually I was, put in the choir. I can't think of the other responsibilities, but it just seemed like more and more studying with new members, staying in between services for studies. What about you? How did it feel?
Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like everything was just so fast that there was no time to breathe, or it just felt normal, I guess. And of course we were new. I had never really been in like a church, continuously. So I was like, okay, this is just what we do, and just tried to follow. So
it seems like almost like natural because so you come and there's a lot of studies. So you're being fed, quote unquote fed. You're continuously, and you feel like, okay, I'm opening the Bible. I'm going through it. I'm understanding these concepts that I never understood before. And as you're mentioning, little by little, things are being put on you. So, as leaders, we're told, hey, that new brother or that new member, they should have a responsibility. And, give them a responsibility. Let them be proud of something. So it could have been either sweeping or vacuuming the sanctuary at that time, maybe taking out the trash, maybe cleaning the bathroom. So it starts off innocently enough, but, one by one, you're giving more and more responsibilities. You're really talented. You learn Bible studies really quickly. So please help us clean this. Please help us clean that. Would you like to do an offering for this and offering for that? And then you can teach really well. You're really personable. You have talent to share with a lot of people. So after a little while, you feel like if you don't work or if you don't do something for the church, it could possibly fail without you. Which is not the case because obviously we've seen that we've all been expendable. We're easily expendable, and the church will continue. They tell us that all the time as well. The church doesn't need you. You are blessed because you come to the church, but the church does not need you at all. But it's funny because a lot of things are put on us.
I was actually less worried about the church failing without me, and more about me failing the church. Even early on, it got to a point where even just one Saturday, like I was ready to just be done. Like this was pretty early in, I don't know, 6 months, a year into being in the church. I just already was burnt out and didn't want to do it anymore just because of so much being put on us and what was being asked of us. I just felt like immediately I'm not good enough. And it's I think it's by design. I don't think it's something that just happens. I think that there is some intentionality behind it of making you feel like you're not good enough. Like no matter what you do, you're still a sinner. You're not good enough. You're only here because we allow you to be here. And that really, really weighed on me from even early our time in the church. So for maybe it's wrong, but I don't know. At no point was I worried about the church failing without me.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Everybody has like a different point of view. In the beginning, when you're a regular member and the leader might see potential in you guys, they'll say, hey, you're really, like I was saying, you're personable, you're really smart, you can teach well. So they start building you up and you're like, wow, I can really do it. I am that way. Or, yeah, I do. I agree with you. Yeah, I can definitely help. I can really pull my weight here. It's not until you're gotten, and by the way, now that you're devoted for this, we don't actually need you. And you're actually expendable, and you're actually not that important. And you should count yourself blessed for even being able to clean the bathroom or be in this place, or if you had a toothbrush and you could scrub the floor, you should be so thankful even for that.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that switch up also happens when you have made it clear, you made it known, you made it clear that you will serve the church. That's kind of when that switch up happens, and people have thoughts like that, like it's too much, like I'm gonna burn out. And maybe at that time you get a bunch of encouraging words. Oh no, you can do it, or God loves you, or mother loves you, or you kind of muster up the faith again to just continue. But it's a vicious cycle. It just keeps happening. Just keeps happening over and over and over. Okay. So I remember those early days. I remember us preaching a lot together, working a lot together, keeping every services. So maybe explain to me a little bit about when you guys were starting to get funneled or pushed into the position of leading a branch church. Because I remember that was really early on. And even myself, even though I had a couple of years on you guys, I was surprised that it was even happening for you guys.
Yeah, so it was, really early. Within a year of us being baptized, there was already discussion about going to lead a church or start a house church somewhere. So in 2015, I was given the chance to go to Korea to visit Mother. And the purpose of that was, what was told to me was the purpose was for of course, for me to learn, but also for me to ask so that we could open a house church. So even from a year in, the plan was already set. We're going to go start a house church. And everything was pushed towards that. So all the studies, everything that we were taught was all pointed towards, well, eventually you're going to go open up a house church.
Yeah. Veronica, how did you feel about that?
I think he was a lot more excited and really wanted to, especially after coming back from Korea, of course. You know, and I was kind of hesitant. Like I said, I was never felt like a good teacher, or it's just not something that just not something I'm comfortable with or confident in. I never was. So I was always worried about that. Well, who's going to teach these sisters if they come, you know? And I remember talking with the overseer, and they're like, oh, we'll figure it out. You know, he will, or we'll have someone else. So I just kind of went with it. But I never imagined that would happen either. That would be our life. But after you just keep going, it almost feels like you can't say no to anything. It's not, I don't know how to say it. They don't force you to do things, but in so many words, they do.
When every sermon is about going out and establishing, plow where it's unplowed. And, why would we hold back? What would it mean if I did not preach the gospel? I remember that time. I remember a lot of sermons being pointed towards establishing and growing and, just making it accessible to lost souls who are in other places of the world where there's no church. So I remember hearing that too. And if I could speak personally, I always thought to myself, I do not want to do that. I do not, even though I believed I had a lot of faith, I didn't want to think about it. So I told myself, no, well, there's no Spanish speakers here, and I need to speak Spanish to a lot of the people that they bring, so I need to stay here. It was too scary of an idea. But then I started to hear rumblings about you guys going in that direction, and I was they are my age, a little bit younger, and I feel very young at that time. And I was I think this is a lot. And plus I really liked you guys, so I didn't want to see you guys leave. Right? Maybe that's selfish on my part, but I was thinking, I don't want them to leave. I like them. I like them being here. But if every sermon was about going and establishing and making people like us happy, us getting the message, then it's a good thing. So at some point you accept it, but there's no doubt a steady stream of sermons and Bible studies ending with the mindset of going out, cultivating, leading people to father and mother, and establishing churches. You couldn't do it without establishing churches.
So outwardly, I was, really excited. And inwardly, too, I was a little excited, but it was a lot more, I had a lot more reservations about it than I really let anybody know. So even before going to Korea, I was asked, what about your job? And I told the overseer at the time, I'm probably going to lose my job. And he said, are you okay with that? And of course I was bought in. So yeah, I'll just get a new job when I get back. And I did end up losing the job.
And it was a good job too.
Yeah, it was a pretty good job. And that was just for going to Korea for the 10 days, 15 days. I think it was 10 days. So that was the first time I lost a job for the church. And then, of course, when you're asked to go establish a house church, you're moving away, right? So now I need to find a job again. And I actually had a pretty good job in Salt Lake that I just had to leave again and go down to St. George and hope I could find something that was survivable. Of course, when you're in a house church, there's another couple living in the house with you, so you split some bills a little bit, and then so that helps, but it's still it just shows that once you're in deep enough, the church comes before everything. And I was actually told that directly by the overseer right before leaving. He pulled me into one of the conference rooms in the church, and I don't know what I had did that day, but for some reason I had given the impression that my wife is more important to me than the church.
I know.
And I got chewed out for it. You have to know the church always comes first. It's the church, then brothers and sisters, and then your wife. Always. And of course, what do you say when you're that in? You just agree, you say amen, and then you go back out, right? And with a smile on your face, right? You know, always told them, we're smiling, right? And then you walk out of the conference room smiling. So, it was, I had a lot more reservations than we let on, but you just do what they ask you to do, right?
Yeah, I was just really surprised that was happening. I was familiar with like other older, I think at this point I had seen short terms come from San Diego. I believe I had gone to San Diego at this point, and there were some members that were in there for many years. And I thought to myself, why don't they do it? Like, I know for a fact they've been in the church for a lot longer than me and, Brennan. So why isn't anybody else from there doing it? Why is there no push for that? And who knows? They may have been set in their ways. It was a bigger church, so they couldn't spare the members. But yeah, definitely, I think they absolutely. We were very young at that time. I think absolutely our faith was taken advantage of, right? And it was tied in with demonstrating our faith to do something like that. Right. Could you
cut in?
Yes.
So I did just want to say about that point, I remember because it was a Friday, so normally you would have like Mondays off, occasionally, well, once a month at least, there would be like a meeting for the leaders. Tuesday service, Wednesday Bible study, or wait, was it Bible study Wednesdays?
It was like preaching and then Bible studies.
Preaching practice.
Thursday Bible study.
Yeah, and preaching, and then Thursday preaching, Bible study, Friday preparation day. So you'd have to come to the church and clean things, fix things up for Sabbath day. So it was a Friday. It was a preparation day, and I had wanted to go to dinner together. And so that's what it was. I think he wanted you to stay longer, and I don't know if you told him, like, oh, we were supposed to go to dinner or something. And then that's when you were told, like, your wife comes after everything. Because I remember you telling me, and that was hard for me because we had been together for like 4 years before coming into the church. So, our relationship was already established, whatever. But when you get into the church, you're just so busy all the time, and everything is separated within the church too. So even though we're going to church all week together, we're not together. Like, we're not talking. So really, when do we see each other? Like at night for an hour before bed? Like, so that's also hard on, a relationship, on couples. And so that was really hard for me to like accept, like hearing that, especially right before we were about to move away from everyone.
So it was like something like prepare yourself because this is going to be the attitude, the mindset that you should have, he should have. Man, I think maybe we can get into this a little bit more later, but the marriages in the WMSCOG are not something to boast about. I think there's a lot of, I remember meeting a lot of couples for the first time, and I thought they were like, superheroes. I looked at them as like big brothers and sisters, and they had everything in order. I just assumed that they loved each other because that's what God wants from us. And so I never questioned that. I assumed it, and I thought, wow, they're really amazing because they do everything else. They preach, they teach, they serve the church, they do, and I know they're finding time to have dates and to like spend time with one another. It was just an assumption because no one thinks marriages are in a rocky situation in the church. But like year after year, couples that you thought were amazing, they start to have problems, and ultimately they break. And you start to see the overseer and his wife are arguing in the corner, and it's confrontational. And at a certain point, you're like, they are always here, and they're never talking to each other. So there is no time for even the overseers, the leaders, to make time for their own relationships. It just comes to marriages ending and people having problems and not being able to overcome. So you noticed it as a new member, but I don't think anybody would say, as being a true gospel worker, my marriage is at the forefront of my priorities. It's just not possible because there's this mindset where first is the church, then it's brothers and sisters, and then it's your maybe something else, and then maybe it's your spouse and your own personal family. So this attitude kind of leads to this result, and you've seen marriages end for no reason other than somebody burning out, and then they get divorced, and then they get married again. But it's like, what's the expectation now? Because you're still a gospel worker, and the church still needs you to serve. So I at least hope that people change and start to give. If people are going to stay in the WMSCOG, which is totally up to them, we at least hope that they can look at each other as being something important and not ignoring one another. Okay, maybe from there we can. How was it leading an office church? You guys led how many?
We led a house church in St. George, and then we led the office church in Idaho Falls for a short time.
How long were you in St. George for?
We were in St. George for 2 years, approximately.
2.5.
Yeah, about 2.5 years. And we were in Idaho Falls for 9 months.
Well, it felt like an eternity. It felt way longer than that.
Agreed.
Oh my gosh. And St. George from Salt Lake is about 4 hours away.
Yeah.
Salt Lake to Idaho Falls was 3 hours away.
Correct.
And, of course, you guys had couples living with you in both branch churches.
Yep.
In Idaho. In St. George, there was no one in Idaho.
Oh, yes. Because it was like an office church technically. But you guys were in the basement.
Yep.
And But because life is so busy and there are times, like, for example, I have a big family and I'm so thankful that we just never had it in our mind to not spend time with one another. So we spent time with each other on the weekends when we could. So we preach in the afternoon on Sundays, and then spend maybe the evening with one another. But I never forgot, like, what you guys are in, St. George. You guys are serving, and you're spending time with that other couple. And I thought to myself, I want to go more. But it's such a trek, and you have to put everything aside. Of course, this doesn't compare to what you guys did. You guys put everything aside, but it was a task, to get to go down there. I think I maybe have gone. I think I went 2 times the entire time you were in St. George. Maybe that's a reflection on me. I think so, but it's very demanding, to have people regularly go. So there was a lot of weekends when you guys were just with the other couple, right? Right. So, you go from a big church where everybody's together, you're all essentially the same age group, you're all spending time, to nothing. And it was like, I felt for you guys a ton. I always thought about you guys. But you think to yourself, I thought to myself, but they're doing the work, they're going to be so blessed in heaven when that day comes. So I'm not going to think too much about it, or I'm not going to try to fight this feeling that I'm having. It was my gut telling me, like, something about this is not 100% right. But you stop your thoughts and you think, well, it's for a better good. There's a family in St. George that's gonna be blessed. How was it though? The preaching there. How was the gospel work in St. George?
So I just want to touch on, you talked about like family, and you were able to spend a lot of time with your family on the weekends. And I just want to say, even before we moved to St. George, we both kind of cut our families off quite a bit. Tried to preach to them maybe a little bit. They were totally didn't want anything to do with it. So, and all of our time is dedicated to the church. We're in the church 7 days a week. So when do we even have time to see our family? So even when we were like in Salt Lake, we hardly saw our family. And then, of course, moving 4 hours away, it was even less. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there, because I think it's important to mention that they don't give you that time, because their focus is just you preaching so you can bring in more people so that they can give money, So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
And it's not so much of we cut family off. It's just we didn't make the time to go see them because we had no time. Mm-hmm. So there was never a teaching of, don't go see your family. But it was, hey, so there wasn't ever a teaching of, hey, don't go see your family. But there was the teaching of, we're going to go preaching all day, the whole day Sunday. You
need to be there.
Saturday, obviously, you're not going to go see your family on Saturday. So when am I supposed to see my family? There's no time. So even in Salt Lake, no time for family. Of course, when we were in St. George, it was even worse, right? We'd have to try and make that 4-hour drive all the way to come up here. When are we supposed to do that when we have to lead on Saturday? We're the ones who have to go preaching on Sunday. Throughout the week, we're busy as well. How are we supposed to make a 4-hour drive to come see family? We missed so much stuff while we were away that it's just, and like Veronica said, I think it's important to bring up, because they will always wash their hands of it. We don't teach you can't 100%. See your family. We don't break up families. That's not us. But they just put so much on you, and you're expected to devote so much of your time that it's impossible for you to have friends. It's impossible for you to go see your family. It's
personal time
right.
with one another.
I missed both of my step siblings' weddings. I missed because I was leading in St. George. I missed my grandmother's funeral because I was living in St. George. She also missed huge family events away from her family because we were dedicating so much time to the church.
Yeah. Veronica, do you feel comfortable sharing maybe some of the things that you missed out on?
Yeah. So we moved to St. George, I think it was January 2017. And I think it was in February, my sister had called me and told me that my mom had a stroke. So of course, we had already been in the church, 3 years. And, as we just mentioned, we didn't have a lot of time to spend with our families, so we didn't see them very often, So, of course, that, hit me hard, knowing my mom had the stroke. I wasn't there. I'm not there. I'm 4 hours away. What am I supposed to do? So I believe, that night, didn't we, drive down? I don't know. I feel like it's been so long.
So, in St. George, when your mom had the first stroke,
I just left, right?
you went, because back to the somebody has to be there to lead. I had to stay, so
yeah, because I think it was a Friday.
So to be clear, your mother has a stroke, and he doesn't go with you.
Right. I can't be there for her because somebody needs to give the sermon.
So I have to drive 4 hours at night, knowing my mom had a stroke. She's in the hospital. By myself, so that I can be there. And then, I think it was a Friday. So I think the next morning I had to still go to service. I left in between, but still keep the Sabbath day, act like everything's fine, because you're not supposed to let people, see how you really feel or things like that. So that happened.
Really natural, by the way.
She never gained her movement on her right side. So since then, she was always in a wheelchair and stuff. But she got better. Obviously, she would never be the same, but she was getting better. And prior to this, she had actually gotten baptized. But she never really went to church, never did a whole lot. She was more a Passover member. And so I think it was 2018. We were talking about her keeping Passover. I don't know, was it 17? I can't remember.
They all kind of just blend after a while, right?
It's been so long.
It's hard to distinguish which Passover and which year.
I think it was 18. And I had been talking to the overseer about her keeping Passover because obviously we weren't in Salt Lake to be able to get her, to bring her. We were in St. George. And so, he mentioned, even though she hasn't come, whatever, she can keep the Passover, but she does need to tithe. And my mom wasn't working at that time. She's disabled, she can't work. And so I mentioned this to him, and he's like, well, you tithe for her. Okay, well, how much do I tithe for her? And he's like, well, whatever you think her monthly expenses are, just give 10% of that. So here I am, okay, I'll tithe for my mom, even though, we're leading this house church. We bring members, there are members who only come for Passover, and never before have we ever said, hey, you need to tithe to keep Passover. But here I am, leader in St. George, being told, oh, if your mom wants to keep Passover, you need to tithe for her. So, of course, okay, I'm in, let me do that. Here's the money. And then, she was able to keep Passover. But that always, has stuck with me and has always bothered me because I feel like there's so many instances like that within the church where people are just not treated the same way. The rules aren't the same for everyone.
Absolutely.
And, if it's all the truth, it should all be the same, no matter, who you are. So that's something that, has always bothered me. But whatever. And then in 2019, in June, she actually had another stroke. And at that time, we were in Idaho Falls. We had moved to Idaho Falls in, I think, January of 2019. So she had another stroke, and that time you were able to come with me, right?
Wasn't able to. That was also on a Friday night, and I essentially just told them. I called the overseer and I said, "We're coming down. I'm going with her, and like you guys can figure out who's gonna give the sermon on Saturday because I'm coming this time." So
general pastor sermon,
right?
Something
you guys can figure this out. So that time I did come down with you, but yeah, I think that was essentially where we got to the point where we realized our priorities were messed up, and that we had given up too much at that point. So I think that was probably the beginning of the end.
Sure.
Yeah, and when she had that second stroke in 2019, she never came back from it. Yeah, she ended up passing away. And even that situation, like in the hospital, the overseer and his wife came, to see her, whatever. But I remember my sister, who has never been a member of the church, she had asked, like, "Oh, will you pray for her?" And, the overseer said yes, and then never did it. And so that moment has always, like, stuck with me, too. Like, why?
Why say you're going to do something?
Right.
If you're an overseer of a church and your life is to pray,
right?
Why wouldn't you pray for someone?
And this is someone who has, been baptized, who has kept Passover. So why?
And it's not as if her sister didn't know what we believed, right?
Okay.
Like her sister was aware of our beliefs. I mean, we made it clear to our family what we believed. I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't pray for someone in that scenario, but apparently he had one. So,
yeah. Well, hopefully in the future he can tell us why, but
I hope so.
Yeah, that's, man. First off, I want to say I'm sorry that it went down like that, and I think everybody's heard that so many times. Yes, we've given up maybe relationships, we've given up money, extensive amount of money, but the thing that we can never get back is time. And yeah, we hear, so early on you hear there's a slander that the church separates families. And I remember they would show us videos like, look at this family, they're happy. Look at that family, they're happy. But those are just cases, right? They don't look at the other cases where it's someone who their family has been trying to talk to them, explain to them the background of the church, the inconsistencies with their stories, and the rifts that it's caused with many families. So just this year, I looked at it this way. The church doesn't necessarily separate families, but you separate yourself from your family. Like you were saying, Brennan, there's preaching meetings to do. There's preaching practice to do. There's Bible studies throughout the week. There's third day. There's Sabbath day. There's Sunday. Sometimes there's preaching in one of the branch churches. So the entire day it's dedicated to that. And sure, maybe we can say, yeah, the church doesn't separate families, but you absolutely separate yourself from your family.
If you're a gospel worker,
yeah,
you will be separated from your family.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
They'll point to maybe they'll point to a member that, they go play bingo during the week, they have hobbies, and we see them really happy on the Sabbath day. They always point to the opposite of, they just stop your thought, which is, I think it is a tactic in cults, where you present an argument or you present your case, and they just shut your case down by showing you someone who their story doesn't relate to yours, right? So they don't show you a successful situation that can maybe put you guys at ease, right? They'll just say, well, this person's having a good time. They have no qualms, they have no problems, so why can't you, look at their case? But yeah, unfortunately, you only realize it after it's too late.
Right.
Brennan, you remember when my father passed, and all my siblings were busy in the church, and only some of them were making efforts to come back and try to be in their life, but it's too late, and ultimately he passed away alone. And I remember you comforting me that first Thursday. My father passed on a Monday. That Tuesday, I did not want to be in the church. I kept service. I went outside and I waited for you to come out and talk to me. Or you came out and then you came over and you spoke to me. But you don't get that time back.
Right.
Veronica, how have you been able to maneuver in the world since that happened?
Yeah. So, also, I just wanted to mention, when she passed away, there needs to be some sort of service or something, right? But apparently that's not something that the Church of God does. So if you've ever been to, a funeral service before, a lot of times it's in a church. You see the body in the church, there's a service, but Church of God said, no, we don't do that. So you need to figure it out. So, we have, from my family, it was only my mom and I had one cousin who was baptized. Other than that, no one else was in the church. So my sister had wanted to do it at a Babylon church that some of our other family went to. And of course, I was freaking out about that. I was like, no, we can't do that. How am I supposed to go to Babylon? That's not an option. Mm-hmm. And if we can't do it at the church, what are we supposed to do? So I, even said, we'll pay for everything if we do it just at the funeral home. But, my mom, my grandma, they didn't want that. So we ended up doing it at the church. But I just thought that was also weird. How they're just no, not at all. And then not only that, but the overseer told me, okay, it's fine, go to the service for your mom, even though it's at a different church, but you cannot touch her. I cannot touch my own mom who just died. And still at that time, I'm just okay, yeah, I get it. Let me write down these notes so I remember, but it's just crazy. Who does that? Who does that? Who says that? I think that was a big moment in my life of faith, losing her and realizing I've wasted all these years, all this time. I hardly see my family. I hardly talk to them. And now she's gone. I'm never going to get that back again. And so that was really hard. And from then, I told Brendan, I'm I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. We need to go back. We need to spend time with our family. At the end of the day, they're going to be the ones who are there for us. We need to be there for them. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the start.
Yeah.
To everything.
From then, we let the overseer know we'd like to move back.
Which also wasn't an easy feat.
Yeah.
Right. It's really looked down on to give up a position, right? If you're leading a church or in some kind of role to step down, it's almost unheard of. Mm-hmm. Very looked down on. Essentially, I think they just assume once you've done something like that, your life of faith is over. It's just a matter of time at that point. And it was, but it's not. It's not because we gave up a blessing or something. It's because we realized how messed up our priorities have become.
Yeah. So I want to say I'm sorry that happened. That something so strange and just out of nowhere was told to you. My dad passed there was no mention of that. It's not like it, as you mentioned, sometimes some things are told to some people, sometimes they're not told to someone who has the exact same situation. If it were really something that it meant something,
right?
Like this is important for your life of faith, your salvation, it's biblical, then they would have asked us, hey, did you guys touch your father? We all did. All my siblings did. None of us were ever asked if we had done that or we were followed up with about anything. So it's just inconsistencies. It's very weird. It lets me know most likely probably it didn't come from him. Maybe it did, but maybe he was told in that situation, ask or tell them. But when it came to my father passing, which is after your mother passing, it wasn't mentioned. So just really weird, really inconsistent, and just not really a teaching that they'll do that all the time. Sometimes they'll mention it, sometimes they won't. It depends on the people, apparently. So, yeah. I remember you guys coming back. It was 2019?
Yeah. September 2019, we moved back.
Yeah. I was, of course, again, I was really happy you guys were back. Obviously, at that point, I think all of us were a little bit weathered. I was a parent already. I was different. I wasn't the same kid I was in 2012, 2014. And yeah, I know you guys weren't either, but I did notice that you guys were kind of slowing down a little bit. And for me, it made sense. I thought to myself, they worked their butts off for a long time. Like, they didn't stop. They deserve this time. So let them relax. But I do remember, like, little by little, you guys were tapering off, and then ultimately, I was ultimately visiting you guys too. I said it because I wanted to like say hello and just check on you guys, but obviously I didn't recognize what was actually, I didn't fully understand what you guys went through, and I didn't know that you guys were having some self-care, which is important. But it was when I would talk to the overseer about your guys' situation, he was like dumbfounded. I don't know. They did everything, and I don't know. I hope everything's okay. Kind of just lost. But after a certain amount of time, you realize, well, if you're the driving force for them to have left, they felt afraid to ask to visit their family. They had to beg and try to find situations to come, to be lost or for it to be lost on you and not know why they are acting this way is really disingenuous. Yeah. I almost thought like he was hands off the entire time, which is very naive from me. But, yeah, obviously after it made sense. But how was the process though for you guys? Can you guys talk a little bit about the process of you actually making the decision to leave?
I think you should start, and probably from our decision to move back.
Yeah. So I think I'm the one who talked, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm the one who ended up like having the first call with the overseer.
Well, even while we were at the hospital, I had already told him that we were probably going to want to move back.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So I remember one call I had, just saying like, we're just ready to go back. Like, we need to spend time with our family, things like this. And I just remember him like guilt tripping me and was like, oh, well, if you go back, like right now, Brother Brennan has like all these blessings and he's leading. And if he goes back, like, what's he going to do there? Like, he's going to lose all of this. And what's going to happen to his life of faith? Like, is he going to be able to handle it? Like, I just lost my mom. Like, I want to go back. I'm sick of this. Like, and that's what you're throwing at me. So, I just kind of stuck to it and was like, no, we want to go back. Like, that's what we need to do. Which was hard. And then shortly after, I remember him saying something like, oh, it's not like a shameful thing. Like, think of like everything you guys did this whole time. Like, you moved the gospel forward. It's great. Everyone's going to welcome you with open arms, whatever. And then when I got back, the overseer's wife, who I felt like prior to this, I was like one of the favorites, like of the branch church wives, always like, oh, Sister V, do this, Sister V, whatever. And then I came back and just like totally iced me out. So I was like, okay, well, that's different, but okay, I get it. Like, but yeah, I mean, it was hard to come back. Like, what do you tell people? Like, because you're not supposed to tell, people your struggles or, just always happy, like gospel's great, So yeah.
If you don't smile, you'll hurt other people.
Yeah.
So everybody put on a smile. I think General Pastor actually said, if you just make yourself smile, you'll be happy. But
we're smiling. Every rebuke ends with a "we're smiling."
Yeah, and I do just want to say,
I remember those.
Like when we were in, away, like I think you were starting to talk about it, but then I like cut you off with my mom stuff. But anyways,
that's okay.
When we were away at the house churches, like we had some really good memories and some really good times, especially from St. George. Like early on with the other couple, we used to have like game nights and stuff, like worldly, worldly board game nights, whatever. And that was like the highlight of that. But aside from that, like it was super lonely. Like it's you and this couple in St. George. We had like one mom and her, young sons. But other than that, it's like constantly just going preaching, trying to bring people in. And St. George is a place where there's either a lot of college students or a lot of older people who just go there like for the summer, like it's their summer home. So it was really hard to, bear fruit there to bring new members in. So it was always, lonely. Like we did have quite a few short terms come from Salt Lake, from San Diego. But yeah, it was just hard and lonely. And then it was also really different moving to the office church where they had so many more members. And then there, it's just like us living by ourselves. Yeah.
So ultimately, the decision to leave, it was slow, and it was really a lot of people leave because they find out this or that about the church. That wasn't us. We just got tired. So I think ultimately, one of the purposes and why I think this interview is important from our point of view, excuse me, is because it's not about all the lies and the things that the church has made up or the falsehoods. It's just because we got tired and we want to let people know the things that the church can take from you. Ultimately, time and a lot of time with the people you love, the people around you, people who love you. You miss out on so much of that because of the church. And ultimately, we just realized that. So 2020, we left sometime middle of 2020. Of course, COVID had happened, so everybody was moved to kind of home worship. And we're so thankful that happened because it gave us the space. It gave us just the ability to step back and think for ourselves for 5 minutes and think, why are we doing this? Like, it was before we had kept both services that day, that Saturday, before the evening service, and neither of us wanted to do it. She texted me something from the other room about not wanting to keep service, And
nice.
I was essentially like, you know what, me either. And that was it. So we didn't keep that service. Shortly after, I received a text message from you asking, hey, I didn't get check-in because somehow we were reporting attendance through.
Yeah, during COVID, we were all had like an honor system. So it wasn't just assumed that everybody was keeping service. For every service, everybody had to message the group leader, and the group leader would ultimately make a list of who kept worship and which services they kept, and report that to the leadership.
Oh, okay. So I received a message from you about not receiving my report, and I just said, yeah, we didn't keep it. We're going to need some time.
Yeah.
And that was it for us. So we were done. And it was not we don't believe anymore. It wasn't anything like that. Of course, later, we realized so many things, and we found so many things that were wrong or that we were lied to about. But initially, we were just tired.
One thing I want to mention for anybody who's like a current member, and I remember this myself. I think I mentioned it on the last podcast that I told my wife, I wasn't looking and I wasn't researching, but I told my wife until she was, I think it was after the pandemic, she was also like, or during the pandemic, I'm done, like, please, like, can we please just ride off into the sunset or something? And I remember telling her, like, until now, I've not seen anything that makes me want to leave. I know this sucks, but we just got to stick with it. Going off of what you said, Brennan, I think for any current members, you might be thinking, I need to see the concrete evidence. I need to see the proof. I need to see, did he really not believe in a Heavenly Mother? Or did he really not give General Pastor authority? I need to know, like, about Soon's book, her original book and her original writings. I need to see that is all well and good in the beginning. For a little bit. It's very interesting when you first get into it. The gut punch after that goes away, because that's just people's lies and people's maligning and twisting things. That goes away. That's foolish. It's really a waste of time. The gut punch is what you gave up. I think it's very difficult for a lot of people to understand that. The relationships that you sacrifice, your friends, your family, you didn't see your family for weeks at a time. I know for a fact that my particular family, because we were in the church, and we didn't see our father the last week, essentially the last couple weeks of his life. He was really, really sick, and he was always sick. He always got like really bad stomach bugs, but on this particular occasion, he ultimately passed. So we gave up a lot of time being with him. And I can't tell you, the last time I saw him was him leaving the church. These are the repercussions, these are the lasting effects that ultimately the church makes you feel. You don't remember, oh, it's because I saw this thing, or I saw that video, or I saw this person's interview. It's, what did I give up for this place? I did everything because I thought it was the truth. But little by little, things start to come up, but you pay a little bit of money, and then you're like, okay, I'm free now. What we don't forget, and what doesn't go away, is what you gave up, what you sacrificed, what you put your spouse through. I know I'm dealing with that still, and it's something that I have to, we all have to face with one another, but I say all that to say, don't disregard someone's personal story. Don't disregard someone's personal experience. When you find out that the church lies, that's it. You don't have to continually go into a rabbit hole of prove it to me 100% that it's fake. The fact that you have been lied to and that you gave up everything for this place, that alone merits you guys just getting out of there. There doesn't have to be this long list of reasons why not to leave. Instead, there should be a long list of reasons to stay. And one of them would have to be ignoring your humanity, right? Not being a regular person. So that's very commendable. I remember but because I didn't think that way when you guys left, whenever I would spend time with my siblings, it'd always be a rabbit hole. What could it have been? What could have been the reason? Because we have the feast, we have the Passover, we have, supposedly all these things that are very important. We thought, what could possibly be the reason for them having to leave? Like, it couldn't come into our brain that they're just tired.
Yeah. And
you guys sacrificed a ton. That was like the last thing that we would have guessed.
Right.
And so just, that's for anyone who's watching, any current member. Don't ignore what you've given up for this place. That's going to be the most lasting effects that you'll have to deal with. Which I don't want that for you. I pray that that's not your case. I hope you live a seemingly normal life. But don't discount someone's story just because they left for that particular reason.
I want to echo that point. We may have left because we were tired, but there are so many lies. Once you are out and once you do have that separation to look into it, then you're able to see all the lies. And I don't think either of us would have been doing this interview had we not seen the lies. And it's not only lies about teachings, it's lies about members and those who leave. One thing that was really shocking to me was the lies that get made about members who leave. We left, and next thing I'm hearing, it's because he talked to so-and-so former member who left, which never happened. I never did find out why the other member left. Or another member left shortly after us, and I had been talking with him, and next thing I know, I'm hearing that, he moved to Arizona. And I had seen him like a week ago, or was texting him a week ago, and he lives in Salt Lake, downtown. Just lies. The lies about members and members who leave it's just crazy to me. And then that's what really, really started to irk me was those lies, but also starting to lie about teachings that were changed, are being changed currently. Those things, they really got to me to the point where, okay, we can sit down and share our story as well. Because I kind of discredited the story. We just got tired, but I don't want somebody to go through what we went through. If we can keep somebody from dedicating so much of their life, missing so much time with family, so that if we can keep them from doing that, then 100% this is worth it.
And it's super unfortunate because you fight because of the teachings. You fight for this church because they promised me this, or this Bible study, or this thing will never go away. That's why I'm fighting to the bitter end to keep my faith, because of the truth. But what starts to happen? The church is now denying teachings. For example, we never said that Zangil-ja will not die. And now, they used to teach us she wouldn't die, and now they say we never taught that.
Right. Or the 144,000. When I heard about the new songs being changed, or about, we never taught that the 144,000 will ascend to heaven. You can look in the book for any members. If you look in, sure, this is the green book for the current members. Page 214. You can see for yourself the second paragraph. It says, in a short period of time after the Second World War, the seal must be placed upon the foreheads of the 144,000 saints who will go up to heaven alive. Directly from Unsung Hong himself. So they may claim, oh, we never taught that, or, oh, you were taught incorrectly. So was I taught incorrectly, or did you teach that? Unsung Hong himself said the 144,000 will go to heaven alive, yet you're telling me that you never taught that. These are the types of things that just start to break down once you just get a little bit of space to be able to think for yourself and not just be force-fed whatever the church wants to teach you.
Yeah. And I heard recently that they're saying here in Salt Lake, and I'm sure places all over the world, the people that recently left, they left because they were being taught wrong, right? They didn't understand the teaching. They didn't know what they heard the teachings wrong, incorrectly, and yeah, that's why they left. They were confused, and they just didn't. They don't understand why they actually left. They left because of some wrong thing.
They always find a way to blame. It's never them. It's always you.
Zero accountability. They can never take it upon themselves. And I'm sure you guys feel this way. It's like, for lack of a better phrase, it's infuriating. It's like, how can you? I'm the one that I took the notes. I remember the sermons. Right? They told us when at Jesus' first coming, once he left, that's when Satan came and he started to malign his truth.
Right.
So Mother is with us now, and she has to remain with us to the very end, because if she leaves, what's going to happen to the church? Mm-hmm. We were all made to say it's going to change. So that's why she has to be with us to the very end and ascend to heaven. There's that famous Spanish newscast where a reporter asks the church, whoever she was doing an interview with, what's going to happen when she dies. So she's assumed, because everybody dies,
right?
And she was told, Mother will not die. She will take all her believers and ascend with them at the last day alive. So, yeah, the feeling of you being told if you were wrong or they didn't understand, it's really infuriating, and it's something. It's hard to be quiet. It's hard to keep it to yourself when you're just being gaslit like that. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people accept that. Oh yeah, and now people that I sat next to in the pew, now they're telling other people you were taught wrong. Mm. It's like you were taught wrong as well.
Right. And then you were there.
You were there. We were taught wrong together. And that's the most monumental teaching that could be attributed to Mother, to Zhang. If that is taught wrong, then what else is wrong? Right? There's nothing written, nothing stated by the church, so it's just like a continuous flux of, can we utilize this particular teaching for this time? Yes. And when the time comes, they're going to pretend like it never existed.
Right. So, with all that being said, I hope that through our interview, people can realize that our purpose, the purpose of this channel, isn't to quote unquote slander. It's not because we are upset with the church. Of course, with the church itself, we are upset.
Sure.
But the members, we still love the members, right?
Absolutely.
I've told you so many times now how Veronica and I would just wait. We're just waiting for Eric and Ivana to come out. We had lunch with Adam and his wife when they were considering coming out. We're just waiting for the members. It's because we care that we're doing this, because we want the members not to have to suffer through what they're suffering for, or suffering through, for a church that is lying to them, for a church that is not only lying to them, most likely is lying about them,
Yeah.
Maybe not right now, but once they leave, we'll be lying about them.
Completely just disavow them and never do them.
Right. Everybody in the church just is disposable.
Yeah.
It's all just waiting for the time where the tithes and offerings stop coming in. You're cut off. Then it's that's the point I want to make. It's because we care about you. That's the reason why we're sharing our story and why we share the things we do. It's not to slander because we hate the church, something like this.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, I feel like a lot of people stay in the church because they've spent so many years of their life already in the church that's all they know at this point, right? That's their whole personality, their whole life. So to think about leaving, it's like a whole new world. Like, where do you go? And they always say that, like, oh, if you leave the Church of God, where are you going to go? There's nowhere for you to go. You know, you're going to end up in hell, whatever.
Immediately is like, you want to be worldly.
Right.
You want to do bad things.
The worst assumptions.
But I just want to say, like, it's okay to be unhappy. It's okay to realize that you're unhappy. It's okay to realize that they keep moving the goalposts. They keep saying, oh, you just need to do this, then you'll go to heaven. Nope, actually, you need to do this, this, this. For me, that was what happened. I felt like no matter what I did, no matter how much time I gave, you know, how many meals I cooked for members, how many kids I watched, how many people I preached to, no matter what I did, it was never going to be good enough for them. It was just never going to be enough. And I just finally couldn't take it anymore. And I'm so glad that COVID happened, even though, you know, so many people lost their lives during that time period to the virus. But I'm thankful that it happened because it gave, you know, Brennan and I the space to actually think for ourselves, because for so long, you know, that had been our whole life and our whole personality too, of just, you know, saying amen, saying yes to whatever the church said. But it gave us the time and opportunity to realize, you know, what are we doing this for? We're not happy. You know, for me, I felt like I was just counting down the time every sermon. Like, I hated being there. I was just waiting until it ended. You know, I was just not happy at all. And I just want to say, it's okay to realize that you're unhappy, and it's okay to leave. Like, I promise your life will go on. I promise things will get so much better for you, and you will end up being so happy, even though, you know, you're told the absolute opposite. There is a life outside of the church.
So even after we left, there was still a bit of an open door. Yeah. I think for a good while after, we would still say we believed. Mm-hmm. Whether or not we were keeping Sabbath day or the feast for the rest of the year in 2020, we would still say we believed the teachings of the church. And we kept the next Passover, and then the Passover of 2022 was coming or feast, something along these lines.
Is this the one about one where it involves? No. I would like. We'll touch on this. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I want to touch on this.
Okay. So feasts were coming. I received a call from the overseer about possibly coming for the feasts. The call went on for a few minutes. How are things going? General small talk. And then it was, well, if you want to keep the feasts, then you're going to need to do tithes and offerings, which was, again, back to Veronica's point, a rule that felt very made up just for us. Yeah. I had never heard any member be told, you can't keep the feast unless you tithe. We would drive to find members who hadn't come in years just to bring them for Passover. But for us, you have to give us the money before you can keep the feast. Yeah. So he shared that with me. I was already pretty upset about that, just because it just showed me that ultimately it just came down to how much money could I give. Yeah. And then at the time, Veronica was pregnant with our daughter, and he said to me, well, what would happen if your daughter grows up and she says, I hate you and I never want to talk to you again, about my unborn daughter? And of course, that's a heartbreaking thing to hear, right? First of all, I'm so excited, right? I'm about to be a dad. I don't remember ever receiving any congratulations or well wishes for having a child. But that broke it for me. After that, after being asked about the money, what if your daughter says she hates you? That was the end for me. Mm-hmm. I'm never going back. So again, it doesn't come down to a hatred for the church or because of this or that teaching, which there are plenty of that we could discuss and that you guys have discussed on this channel. But it just comes down to showing what the true intent of the church is to take your time, most importantly, but also your money. And it also demonstrates the value that they put on family. That even before my daughter is born, pitting my daughter against me or my daughter against the church, it's wild.
Unbelievable. What's it called? So I think around that time you guys were obviously out in a way. It may have been 2021 where we came to your,
I think it was 2021. Yeah, so like Brennan said, we didn't leave because we saw something about the church, anything like that. We were just completely tired. And in 2021, you and your spouse, my group leader at the time, you're his group leader, had come to our house to visit, and I think you brought some stuff for our daughter, and I think the Passover invitation you guys brought. But then at the end,
so I want to emphasize one thing. We were the reason why I was building up so much about when they got baptized and how much I love these guys and all the time we spent and just being genuinely happy about them returning. I think it just worked out this way, and we were their group leaders. That's most likely the reason why, but they would have not seen this coming from us, especially us. We would have been the silver lining to this entire thing, but when you're obedient, you're obedient. So we came, I think in that particular year, also the church also started to mention about if people wanted to keep Passover, they should tithe first. It had never been a thing.
So a new rule.
It's a new rule. It's interesting though that you mentioned that they said that with your mother.
Yeah. Years before that. Yeah.
Which is it's just picking and choosing. It's just strange. But even though we bought them a gift. I remember we bought you guys a gift for your daughter, essentially newborn. We wanted to say hello. Of course, we came with the Passover offering. So it was a good meeting. But I had been told by the overseer, when you go, grab their books. Grab their truth books. I think maybe the General Pastor's books as well. And at the very end of the meeting, just, okay, guys, well, it was good seeing you. Oh, maybe you might recall this better than I was in with Hayes, but maybe you can recall this better.
Yeah, at the end, I remember his wife was like, oh, I need to use the restroom. So she's in the bathroom, and I think Eric had told Brennan, oh, come outside with me for a minute. Mm-hmm. And then all I remember next is he comes inside with this box, and he's like, oh, we actually need to take your books, so we just want to make sure, with your new daughter, they don't get written on or anything.
Baloney.
And I was floored. I was like, what? Like Brennan said, like, we were still open to the church at that time. We hadn't, like, completely, shut the door, like, still, communicating with them here and there, whatever. So we gave them the books, and then I remember, I think I texted Ivana maybe that same night. I don't remember, but I was mad. I was like, you know what? Like, I was still open to coming back, but now you guys did this. Like, I'm done. Like, we're not leaving to, like, slander the church or, try to get members away from you. Yeah. And, even since we did leave, like, we never was like, hey, you need to come out of this church. Like, we've always been there if someone has reached out to us and we've shared our experience, which we've kind of went back and forth on whether or not we should even do this video, because for us, it was kind of like a different scenario. It wasn't because we realized the church was false, but more because we were just fed up and tired, exhausted. So we weren't even sure if we wanted to do it because, it's not like something jaw-dropping. Like, we just reached the limit. Like, we just couldn't do it anymore. But yeah, that was like, I was done after.
Yeah, that night, I didn't understand. I thought I trusted the overseer when he said grab their books, because I figured, okay, he may have seen something, or he may have, like, gotten some vibe from them that they were going to do that. So I just trusted him. And any current member or ex-member will know that you only ask for books when they're done. It's like, I don't want to be part of this place anymore. I hear your books. But it was somebody that we were still inviting for Passover. It was a couple that we were having, like, a time with. And we asked for that back. And I remember that night I was so conflicted. I was upset that we had to do it in the first place. I didn't understand why we had to do it for you, where we didn't do it for other people. And towards the end, I was like, did he use us specifically because they wouldn't have seen it coming from us? Or we would have been the best case, but she still got mad. They still got upset. So what's the point of it? And yeah, I was very upset as well, and just confused. Didn't know how to feel and take it. And
we didn't hold it against you guys.
I mean, I like to joke about it still.
Right. We were mad. We were upset, but we know what it's like to be asked by the church to do something you're not comfortable with.
You just do it,
and you just do it. It's all everything, no matter what it is. Your friends, family, it doesn't matter. If the church asks you to take their books, then you're gonna go ask and take their books. It's it just goes back to showing they'll make you do whatever they want you to do.
And that's like the really scary thing about it. We get faith. We're told obedience, right, is better than sacrifice, and our obedience and putting the church first is like made to be a really like valuable characteristic of a gospel worker or any member. But it's scary because now we're breaking relationships, we're parting from our families, we're essentially not in a home with a stranger. It could happen. And people that sat next to us in Bible studies and sermons are turning around and are saying you were taught wrong. And ultimately families get cut up and not talked to anymore. And because they want to prove their faith, they will simply just listen and do it and do something that they wouldn't otherwise normally do. It's a really strange and, essentially almost it is a dangerous tactic because where's the line? Right. Where do they draw the line in the sand? Like, because it keeps getting moved and moved and moved, and the more extreme it could become, it could just end up in a bad place. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying that there's this mindset, but I'm saying, why wouldn't that be something that they could exploit? Okay, so the time came when you guys decided to just stop doing everything and just stop keeping up with the church. How was your guys' mindset when you were just out in the wild, and what did you guys start doing from there?
I think at first it was a little scary. Like, I remember having nightmares. Sometimes I still have nightmares of like just the church scenario, or like certain members from the church, or also like good, dreams sometimes of members from the church. But I think when you first leave, it's scary. It's like, oh, can I go out on the Sabbath day? Like, is something going to happen? Am I going to get hit? Am I going to die? Like, because it's ingrained in you, you have to keep the Sabbath day. When you leave, you're going to go to hell. Like, these crazy things. But I think, of course, everything gets better with time. And I've been, figuring out who I am as a person, because it takes up your whole life, your whole personality. You have to like build everything again. Like, who am I? What do I like? What do I like to do? Like, you're just figuring yourself out again. So yeah, I like to work out now. I like to read. Just sit and watch random shows. I love to watch a good, documentary.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of finding yourself after, because it strips everything from you of personality, right? So, I mean, after we left, she was about to give birth to our daughter. I started going back to school. So I went back to school. I'm a CPA now. So really was able to kind of focus on the stuff I should have been focusing on while I was in the church, actually establishing a life, I was able to do once we left. And that's what, like Veronica said, we don't go out trying to pull members from the church. Yeah. We're not the ones doing any of that, right? But we are there for the current members of the church who want to talk to somebody who's where they're at and who's maybe teetering, just wants to know what's life really like once you leave, because we're so ingrained that life's going to be miserable. Everything's going to go wrong if you leave. And our life got exponentially better once we left. We have an amazing 4-year-old daughter. We have...
Congratulations, brother.
Thank you. We both were able to go back to school. We both have careers now. It was life-changing in the best way to once we left. And that's essentially what we've shared with people who have wanted to talk to us, because we can debate the Bible, we can debate what An Sang Hong said, or what the teachings of the church were or aren't anymore. We can debate that all we want, but is your life really better in the church? And I think if they really explored their heart, I don't know that anybody can say that it is. That they don't want to spend more time with their family, that they don't want to spend time with their spouse or their children. I personally could not ever live with my daughter being raised in the kids' room. The amount of time that the kids have to stay in the kids' room every night after school, they're in the kids' room while the parents are Bible studying. Every service, they're not sitting with their parents, they're in the kids' room. All Sabbath day, kids' room while the parents are either studying or prepping or something. I personally could not imagine my daughter doing that. So I hope that current members realize what they're giving up and the amount of time. I don't regret my time in the Church of God, because of the amount of things I learned about myself, the relationships that I've made with you all and with the members who haven't come out yet but may come out later that I'm still waiting for. Those relationships, though the church makes them transactional, that I'm only your friend, I only love you because you're in the church, it's not actually that way. Once you leave, you'll realize that these are real relationships, that we really do love each other, that we really do want what's best for the other people. And that's the same place we're still in. We wanted what was best for them while we were in the church, and we still want what's best for them. And now that we're on the outside, we know it's so much better once you can separate and once you can live your own life, experience what real life is. It's amazing. So I hope that any current members who are listening to this, any who are on the fence, they realize that life doesn't get worse once you leave, like is pounded into you. That even though it's scary, even though it is going to take some healing, you're going to have to learn a lot of stuff about yourself that you have given up, that it's worth it, and that there is happiness outside of the church.
I remember when my wife first left, I asked her, "Oh man, does this mean we have to get hobbies now?" Because we had no hobbies, we had no like pastimes, nothing that we spent time for. So one thing I want to mention, thank you for explaining like how you guys have lived your life since then. For anybody who's still in the church, I want you to ask yourself, have I found my actual person? Have I found my actual spouse? Am I waiting for somebody to present me the perfect spouse? Am I holding back on my education to ultimately have a better job, to create my life? It's very unfortunate, but something I've seen is because the church is so fast paced, preaching, studying, meeting with one another, I feel like it stunts the growth of a lot of people. And it's almost like whatever age you came in at, you're still that same person because you haven't pushed yourself to educate yourself. Maybe you haven't found the right person, your spouse. Maybe you haven't experienced things out in the world. Maybe you haven't really pushed yourself to know the scriptures because we already have the scriptures that we need to use. So coming out, it's not like it's going to be a nosedive and you're going to go straight down. Life is going to get more beautiful. All of a sudden, yes, it gets a lot bigger and scarier, but there's so many more things to learn. Relationships are more interesting. You can actually get to know one another. You can yourself grow. I know there's a lot of people in the church that want to get married, that want to have kids, that want to have a good education. But because the church is so demanding on their life, they push it to the back and they don't think about it. But it's not going to go away.
Right.
I think you mentioning that, it kind of puts a light on that. And, for the people who have families and they say, or I'm not saying the church pushes that against you. There's plenty of families in the church. There's plenty of babies that have been born since we went there. I had a child, right? But if it's also seen as a sign of like, why are you studying? Or why are you educating? Why are you getting married to have children? There's this kind of mindset behind it. And I don't know. There's a lot of people that want to have the things that you guys have, the things that I have, the things that many people have. But because they are just so solely focused on bearing fruits and bringing people, they're not thinking about it. So I hope your message resonates with them. I hope they can hear and take to heart what's really important, and really just look at everything that they've given to this place, and hopefully they can take some time for themselves. Because eventually it's going to happen. We just hope that it's sooner rather than later. Thank you, Brennan and Veronica, for sharing everything you have. Do you guys have any final messages for maybe any possible member that is listening to your video?
Yeah. I just want to say that you deserve happiness. You deserve to have a life, and the life that you want. You don't have to keep living this life of being constantly busy, constantly having all these things to do because someone is just telling you. You honestly really deserve to have the life that you want. And I promise once you leave that there are so many of us now who are out who will be here for you for whatever you need. You know, that was one thing that was hard, is when we left, there wasn't very many members who were out to share that experience with. And it's something so unique that you can't just talk about it with anyone because they don't understand. But, you know, we're here. Erick's here. You know, Adam, Kayleen, so many other members are here for you guys.
So many.
And truly, you know, like Brennan said, we love so many of you members who are still in. We are just continually waiting for you to come out. And we cannot wait until you do. And we're going to be here for you. But you deserve happiness. So please come out when you're ready.
Yeah, I second all of that. We love you and we miss you. We really do. I know that this interview may hurt some of you to hear these things. However, it's because we want what's best for you, and we want you to be able to live your life. You are good enough. Though the church may make you feel like you're never doing enough, you have given more than you ever should have to a church that really just sees you as transactionary. So, like Veronica said, if any of you want to reach out to us, would like to talk, we're always there for you. I'm sure it's the same for Erick and Adam. But yeah, we love you all, and we hope that you realize what you've given up so far and that you don't give up anymore.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's good. I think that's really amazing. Thank you for everything you shared. Thank you for accepting my call when me and Ivana reached out to you guys. You know, you guys were like, because of all the thoughts we had, we were like, we got to talk to them first. Okay, well, this has been Erick, Brennan, and Veronica with Finding the Alternative. I want to thank you guys for listening, and keep an eye out for the next episode. Thank you.